welcome into the Common Dad Podcast, Season 2. Of course, thank you guys so much for listening. As always, do not forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. On YouTube, it's the Common Dad Podcast, so make sure you get that podcast in there. Subscribe, like, share, follow, all that good stuff. As Ryan cracks a beer, but it's a twist off, so it
What a
doesn't sound good at
sound.
all, and you're pouring it
No, it was
wrong. What are you
terrible.
doing? Tilt the glass.
How do you know I wasn't?
That's a rough start to the podcast. Because I
Wow.
saw you pour it straight down. Enjoy your
you
phone.
pour it straight down into the
No, you don't. No, you don't.
into a tilted glass.
You didn't
pour
tilt
it
the glass.
I can tilt. Spider-Man just went. I can tilt and pour, but you pour straight
All
down.
right, so you were tilting. Okay. All right, I'll give you.
Down goes Spider-Man.
You've been on this earth a lot longer than me, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you knew better. I'll just.
If you're a viewer, let us know. Do you prefer twist off or do you prefer like metal bottle caps?
I
Like,
think
what's your preferred?
I believe this
vessel
is
for
this
your
is the
beverage.
beer of the PGA Tour and the man that likes to watch.
that's true.
Right, but what's the preferred vessel? Is it a glass bottle, a can bottle? What
Yeah.
technically is that?
I think that's like an aluminum. I think one
Bottle?
of the companies calls it a silver bullet. Yeah, it's like an aluminum bottle. I think the glass.
What's glass all day?
I think the glass is a little overrated.
Oh, really?
I do. I like the aluminum 16 ouncer because it keeps it colder longer. It does. I think there's science to back that up. At least colder than the glass.
No,
No, it's science for sure. It keeps it colder longer, but
aluminum is thinner.
aesthetics of the
Temperature transfers faster in aluminum.
I don't think that's true. But then
Glass
again,
has more mass.
Glass transfers
has more
heat pretty
mass.
quick too.
I don't know.
They both
I-
do.
I didn't
But
do
it's-
well.
it's
Regardless,
for the reverse process.
shot.
so it can
Audience
get
needs to let
cold.
us know what their preferred
Yeah,
vessel is.
of
And
course.
so it can get
What's-
cold
or-
quickly,
or-
not so it can get
Or
warm.
do you just do you only do draft?
That's
you have
a
your own
fair- I like
kegerator
that.
and you only do draft.
Ooh, that's what I need. Kegerator. Now listen, before we get on to the actual topic that is this podcast, question. The other night, Signs was on one of the streaming
It's a good
services
movie.
that I have. So good. So I sat there and watched it right before bed, which is great. A little creepy. Question, and I think it is. Is Signs the best alien movie? I think it is.
You sure it's not Mars Attacks?
I am very sure it's not. I am so
No.
sure it's not Mars Attacks.
Go back and
However,
listen to season 1.
Well,
Mars
okay, but
Attacks
hold
is that
on. So
movie
what do
can't
you
take your eyes away
classify
from.
as alien
Right.
movies? Because like would
Movies
you
with
classify
aliens.
all of the Star Wars and all of the Star Treks?
No.
Because there are technically aliens within that.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
but
a
they're
whole
not
alien jazz band.
considered
what-
alien,
what
like
do you
alien
consider to
invasion,
be-
like aliens coming to
Okay.
Earth, like like in Star
Aliens
Wars, they're
coming
not
to
considered
Earth.
aliens. They're just another.
Okay, so we're talking what, like E.T. We're
E.T.,
talking
all the
Coneheads?
alien movies, Coneheads, sure. Yeah, although I personally like the.
I mean, the
alien
first
movies.
Alien movie, it wasn't even coming to Earth. It was all on a ship
Yeah,
in deep space somewhere.
Right. But it was about the Earthlings. I don't know. I think the alien movies, honestly, are a little
Star
overrated.
Trek has Earthlings.
Yeah, Star Trek is all about.
It's all Earthlings.
I get, yeah.
well,
that's
no,
true.
it's
Going out
not all
Yeah.
Earthlings.
Going
I don't
out
know,
into
for-
space. I mean, the main.
The crew,
Yeah.
the crew is
The
made up
crew-
of all different kinds of people.
True. But for me, Signs
true.
is the best alien movie. That's fantastic. I love that movie.
I
It's
see
so
where you're
good.
going with this,
It's
but I
creepy.
think I
I see the heart behind the question. So go ahead,
Yeah.
Ryan.
No, I think there are a number of other movies that are going to contend. I watched
Yeah.
E.T. the other day with the kids.
E.T. sucks. I'm just gonna say it. That's a bad.
I don't think it
Oof,
sucks.
I don't know about
It's old, but
sucks.
It's
it was
right
a
there.
Different
good
genre.
movie.
You're not
It's-
trying to scare kids. In Signs, there's like suspense.
Yeah.
You're not gonna let a 3-year-old watch Signs.
If you're into the suspense, if you like suspense, Signs is a better movie. But if you're just talking about alien, I mean, I liked Home with Sheldon Cooper did the voice for that little purple alien and the
Yeah,
dance.
okay.
And like,
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't know. E.T. to me feels like you could have replaced E.T. with a dog and you have this like, oh, I found a dog. Like it's the same. And instead of the CIA coming to take the alien away, it's just the dog pound. Like I don't know. It just eh, it's it.
What's
I
the
don't know.
one with
It was
Tom
okay.
Cruise and
God,
the
there's a
giant like little tripod things
oh
that shoot
oh
lasers?
oh
That
Something
I read the
tomorrow
book.
or
No,
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 oh my
no.
gosh, this is good podcast
yeah, I
material.
had to read the book in high
What's
school.
that
I did too.
movie? Well, they're
Yes.
shooting the red lasers at
Yes, no,
people.
that one was decent.
That was
Well,
good. That was
and
actually
Tom
a
Cruise's
radio
edition.
show.
Tom Cruise's
Also,
edition was the second or third time that movie had been
Correct.
remade.
I
Yeah,
can't
that's
think
the
of this
one that came to
stupid
my mind
movie.
and the one I knew I could
Here we go.
throw to you guys, and I hoped you guys would have the answer.
Tom Cruise alien.
Hold on, entire
movie.
audience, while we look
Yep,
this up.
absolutely. Not boy.
Well,
There's
you
a lot
guys
of Tom
keep
Cruise
talking.
alien
It's
movies.
War of the
War of the
Worlds.
War of
Worlds.
the
War of the
Worlds.
Worlds. There's like 5 alien movies with Tom Cruise, and he's just running full
No.
speed in all of them. Anyway,
That one was good too, though. The Edge of Tomorrow.
that was underrated. That was a good movie. I
That
liked
was a brilliant movie.
Speaking of the Edge of Tomorrow, actually, that doesn't have anything to do with it. Our actual topic for the day.
Finally getting to.
Finally getting to it. Of course, we got to get the important stuff out of the way, and we'll talk about parenting garbage right at the end of the podcast. It's hard to admit that you actually like your kids sometimes. Of course, we love our children all the time, but we're supposed to be their parents, not their friends. That is the topic of conversation. I feel I've been thinking about this topic all day long, and I feel very indifferent about it, actually. And when the topic was first brought up, I think my natural reaction was, well, yeah, of course. I've heard people say, you're supposed to love your kids. You don't have to like them, which I think is a stupid saying for any application in life. You wouldn't say that with anything else. You'd never had ice cream, and you're like, I love this ice cream, but I don't like it. It makes no sense. But I don't know. How do you guys stand on that? Because the more I think about it, the more
Well,
indifferent I get on it.
so the way I think the way it was initially presented was you can love your kids and not like your kids.
But that doesn't make
And
any sense
essentially,
to me.
well, but
But I'm dumb.
essentially that means you love them and you want what's best for them in the end, but what their behavior is and what their actions are, you may not like it. It may
That's
anger you, it may frustrate you. That doesn't mean you don't love them.
you don't like
So
the
you
action.
don't like them. You don't sure, maybe it's the
That's
action. That's
I
probably a better. But
yeah.
the premise behind it is exactly that. The premise
Okay.
behind the question or the
I'm getting
statement
I'm getting
is
caught up
exactly
in
that.
the
It's
yeah.
so in clickbait, it's okay to not like your kids.
Right.
Well,
Now,
I think
how you interpret that is different. Go
you-
ahead, Ryan.
I think Drew kind of nailed it. So and that's where I had a conversation with Yanni about this. We've actually talked in depth about the friend versus parenting, and I think that is different than not liking your kid. And there's the funny video of the kid telling his mom, right? Linda, is it Linda? Listen, Linda, I
Oh
love you, but I
gosh,
don't
yeah.
like you right now, or something like that.
I don't remember
Um,
that.
But you go find it on YouTube after you subscribe to us.
Of course.
um,
Of course.
But it's the behavior you don't like. It's the action you don't like. Now where you can come out on this at the very end, right, is saying, okay, we're in our 50s. Our kids are now grown adults. I don't like who they've become in
Jeez.
adulthood at
Yeah.
this point. You know what I
At
mean?
what-
And
At what age can you look your kid in the eyes and go, you know what, this didn't work out?
right.
I
We'll try
I
it
don't
again.
know. I don't know if it was the chef or if it was the food, but this dish sucks.
But at
When
that
can
point,
you tell them that?
you almost have to accept some level
The
of
third time they're
responsibility.
arrested.
They are their own individual, and there's certainly many examples of kids that rise above crappy situations and kids
Sure.
that are given life on a silver platter and still find some way to screw it up. So you see
Yeah.
both extremes, but to say at this stage, I mean, we all have kids under 10.
Right.
At least I do for another few months. But at this stage, I've had conversations after the kids go to bed that it's like, it drove me nuts that they did this, or it drove me nuts that I have to keep
Yeah.
reminding them this. I'm losing my patience with that sort of thing, repeating myself. But I'm kind of stinking proud of our kids. And
Well, yeah, that's
and I
good.
know I'm
In
talking
certain
about
areas, I would
mine
have, yeah,
in my scenario, but I like my kids. And I really think if you don't like your kids, you may need to look in the mirror, right? Starts with the man in the mirror.
Right. Yeah.
I, if
Can
you don't like
you,
your kids and they're under 10, you need to do something.
if you don't like your kids, we'll just be straight on. If you don't like your kids, can you love them? I don't for me, my tiny little bird brain goes like and then love. I don't know how you can skip that. You know what I mean?
Well,
I can not like what you're doing or not like how you're acting and still love you, but I can't look at my kid and go, "You know what? I don't like you, but I love
right.
you." Like
The
I don't
way
think that works.
the way you're defining it, absolutely. I totally
hmm,
100% I agree. I think the context of the question, to kind of go back to what Drew was starting with, goes back to like very similar to that little kid in the YouTube video that goes, "Mommy, I like you," or "I love you, I just don't like you right now."
Mhm.
And it's the, have you ever been in a fight with your spouse where it's like, "I love you, but right now I really don't like you." Like, and
Right.
and in reality what you're saying is,
I don't
"Yes,
like
I love you. Yes, I
this.
like you. I don't
Yeah.
like
it's a
the
short-term
scenario.
feeling.
I don't
Yeah.
like the behavior. I don't like the action. I don't like what is going on in this moment." And it's
Right.
not, you're saying the words "I don't like you" right now,
Well,
but that's not in reality. It's not that you don't like them. You don't like the behavior of the situation.
right.
Right. I don't think it's necessarily. So I think Ryan, yeah, I'd say you're correct. Um, the only change I would make is that I think that it's not always necessarily a momentary action.
Mm.
There are behavioral things that I am working with my kids. They regularly do the same thing, and it
Right.
regularly frustrates me every time. It's
But
not
it's
an
Yeah.
instant
behavioral.
thing. The way he does it every single time, it gets to me. And it's a process, and we're working on it, and we're trying to condition that, and we're trying to work on that, and whatnot. So like, so for an example, Alex has recently he likes making everything into a race, but only if he can win. The moment he can't win, it's no longer a competition. Oh no, 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 we're not racing right now.
We weren't
No, we
actually
weren't.
playing.
And it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
it's fine.
you. So it frustrates me because it's like,
Yeah.
well, he's not giving his brother a chance to
Right.
succeed at all.
Yeah.
Um, he only makes it a race when, and he's the older brother, so it's
Isn't
like,
that the older brother's
his
job?
younger brother kind of,
Yeah.
looks to him for that.
Yeah.
But this is an example, but it's
Yeah.
we have to work on long-term conditioning that, hey
Learning to
bud, you're not
lose. Yeah.
always going to win,
Right.
and
Right.
that's okay.
Yeah.
It's not a momentary thing.
Yeah. I have
Everything
a
is a race unless he can't win. So it's behavioral over a long time.
I have a quick side note on that because I'm working on that with my oldest too. Is how to lose, like, because it's you're not only gonna lose sometimes you're gonna flat out suck at stuff.
Oh yeah.
I was out in the backyard hitting golf balls, and Elijah goes, "Hey, he was asking me questions, and are you good at golf?" And in his eyes, I'm dad. I'm good at everything, right? I'm better at him than everything, so he just naturally thinks I'm good at everything. And I was like, all right, moment here. I was like, buddy, whenever I go golfing, I am the worst of all the people there every single, and I'm not lying. I am the
You
worst
haven't
every
golfed
single
with
time I
me.
go. I am, that's true. I haven't golfed with you, and he was just kind of like, oh, really? And I had a good chance. I was like, nope, but I keep trying and I'm going to get better. And I'm going golfing this weekend, buddy, and I'm going to lose again. And he was just like, why are you going? Well, I like to spend my money and have a horrible time and sweat in the heat. But anyway, that was just a funny side note. But no, that's a good example though of it, of course I love you, but stop doing this.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
Well,
so frustrating every time.
what you're teaching them though, and I like the way you're saying it, and I don't know that you've actually phrased it this way, but it's that old saying, like, you win or you learn.
Yeah,
You don't really
you don't
lose. You win or
lose,
you
right?
learn,
The only
right?
time you
And
lose is if you don't learn from it. Yeah.
right. So Katie hasn't had the opportunity to experience this a lot because a lot of her dances are recitals. They're not
Hmm.
competitions, sort of
Right.
thing. So it's very different. Matthew, in a interesting way, made the All-Star team last summer,
Mhm.
and we were very ill prepared. The
Way
kids
to
were not
go.
prepared during the season, and us as coaches were not prepared for what we were
You get
facing,
smoked.
and we got smoked. I think we got mercied we did win one game. I think third week of the 4
Mercied
weeks,
every game.
but we got mercied just about every other game.
I mean, that'll get you humbled quick. It's
And
good
it
for him.
did. And these
Yeah.
are kids that in our league, they are all-stars. They
Right.
are the cream
So
of
they're
these are
like,
kids that we're used
we're the
to
best.
being
Yeah.
one or two of the best kids on they're either the best or the second best kid on the field at any given point in time, at any given for 3 or 4 months, and then they step onto the field and the entire other team is better than them.
Can I ask a quick question so I don't feel as horrible about myself? But when I see my kid getting cocky and like real good about winning a game or whatever, does a little part of you feel really good when they lose? just a little, like you just like, yep, there
Okay,
you go.
does that tie
There you
into
go.
I don't like my kids?
No, I think that ties into there's a
You
small
never
behavior.
wish somebody that you love has to go through something like that, and
listen,
yet you're getting enjoyment out of your son losing.
there will
I think that ties into the topic.
I don't like this part about me. I do not. I never have, but there's a small part of me that likes when somebody loses. I get a little joy from that, and that's not a good quality. I'm just gonna put that out there. I don't like that,
We've
but
we've had
it's who
the
I am.
learning to win also.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
learning how to
It's
win,
yeah. Yeah.
because the cockiness is especially when you see how competitive the parents get, at least at t-ball and things
Oh
like that.
yeah.
um you have to teach your kids, because
Yeah.
they get it and they get pretty cocky. and
Yeah.
and
Now,
Matthew's first season, he stared at a third base coach that could probably bench press me, and he was just as intimidating as all get out. And
I
Matthew
love
looked at him
Florida.
as a 4-year-old and said, "We're gonna beat you.
Mm.
You guys are gonna lose."
That's good. I like that. Now, I want to get us back on a little topic before, because the second half of this question is where I'm at more of a crossroads. Is we're not supposed to be their friends, we're supposed to be their parents.
Mm-hmm.
That where are you at with that, Drew? Because I've always heard that. That's something, just being a parent, I've heard before. But the more
Well,
I think about it, I don't know if I really agree with it. You go first,
oh,
and then
I'd
I'll.
love to hear
All
the
right. Okay.
argument
Well,
for
let
that.
me. Okay.
But
S-
go ahead.
all right. Let me throw my theory out. I don't. There's a lot of ways to go with this. I'll be blunt. I feel like, and I've done this to where I get frustrated with the kids, and I'm at my last, I'm all right, what do I do here? And I'm like, you know what? It's time to stop trying to be friendly, and I'm gonna lay the law down, and either I yell at them or whatever. It's kind of a last ditch effort where I'm like, all right, no more daddy lovey dovey. It's we're laying the law down. I'm your parent, which is fine. I think at a certain point every parent
Yeah.
has
No,
to
of
do that.
course.
But I think that's a last ditch effort. I don't think having that mentality all the time is good. You don't want to. I've never met a kid that was mentally okay who had a parent who was like, "I'm just a parent. I'm not your friend." You know what I mean? Because
Well,
I have friends growing up with parents like that, and it's not
I
good.
think you might be getting confused with being a parent means that you're
I'm
always the
often
hard.
confused. I'm often confused.
I don't think being a parent means that you're always a hard ass and you
Right.
can never have any fun.
Right.
So certainly you can horseplay, you can roll around on the ground, let the kids tackle you, go out and throw a ball back and forth. You can play, you can have fun, you can do those things. The important distinction, like you mentioned, is that you have to guide and teach and educate them on the way the world is, and you have to prepare them for a world that is going to knock them down.
Yes.
And a friend doesn't always do that. The friend is the one sitting behind you going, yeah, you should jump off that bridge.
See
Do
that?
it. Do
Okay.
it. You won't. I
S-
double dog dare you. I triple dog dare
So
you.
that's another part of this that I was thinking of, because you're right. That's who, when we think of friends, that's who. So kind of reverse engineering it, I was kind of like, okay, well, how am I teaching my kid to make friends? Who do I want him to be friend? In my mind, in my father mind, that's not a friend. That's somebody who's just trying to get some entertainment from you. You know what I mean? Or that, at least
Yes
that's
and
not a
no.
good. At least
Yes and
that's not a
no. I
good
mean,
friend. I don't
you've
know.
never gone out and been mischievous with your friends or done something that
Of
maybe you
course I
should like.
have. Of course I have. Yes.
Of course, everybody's going to
Yeah.
do that, and I don't. I think trying to paint a picture that your son or your daughter should only make friends with saints, it's
No.
unrealistic.
Yeah. It's unrealistic, but to have that
You want them
friend
to
who
have the
is
best
always like that.
influences.
Yeah, of
Well,
course you do.
sure.
And then, like you said at the beginning, it goes on the flip side. Instead of being a friend, a parent, you can't always be that hard dad. It's
I think in the end it boils down to one is more of an educational role where you're trying to prepare and teach the
yeah.
child. And you look at coaches and athletes and you look at like a sensei and a karate studio and I think all of those are great examples.
Hmm.
They're not there to stand next to you, they're there
No.
to instruct you and teach you.
Right.
And if you go into a karate student, or if you go into a karate studio or whatever, the teacher's going to knock you down because it's
Sure.
the best way for you to learn how to stop it and how to get back up.
Right.
And that's our job as parents, is not to knock them down and hit them. Don't get me wrong.
Good cop, bad
Deck your
cop. Honey,
kids.
push him down. I'll pick him up. Well,
But at the end of the day, we need to teach them how to be prepared for that. As a coach,
sure.
you have to, when you drop the ball, you will run a mile. You're not being their friend in that moment.
Right.
They're
But in that so isn't it, and this is just right off the top of my head, I don't know, I'm just asking a question. Isn't it a parent's obligation to put those people, coaches, teachers in your kid's life intentionally that will not be their friend, but will challenge them constantly?
sure,
Because
but that doesn't
it can't
relieve
come
you of
from
your
us.
own
No, no, no,
responsibilities to
no.
do it.
Of course not. But that, because that can't come from us all the time, we need to make sure
Correct.
that there's somebody in their life on the other side who is more or less gonna be the bad guy.
Correct. So
And
Sarah and I, we want as many as possible influences in our children's lives as
sure,
possible.
yeah,
Now we want those influences to all be, for the most part, saying the same thing.
right,
So we try to surround ourselves with people who have very similar beliefs as us, very similar morals as us, very
sure,
similar, whatever it is. We try to surround ourselves with people that have very similar viewpoints as us so
yeah,
that our kids hear the same message coming from multiple people and multiple sources.
yeah,
And we hope that that reinforces some of those, because a lot of times they're not going to listen to us. Sure, we want the teacher to lay down the law, and we want the baseball coach to lay down the law, and we want those influences to be leaders as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we just get to be the friend because we found all these other people. We still have to have rules in our house.
yeah,
We still have to eat our vegetables. We still have to not lie and not do this and not hit our brother. And when we do bad things, there are still consequences. And
sure,
so there are still responsibilities on the parent to be a
yeah,
parent instead of being a kid.
right.
Um,
But I
I
do
think
think,
everybody can think of the kid that doesn't get disciplined and doesn't have consequences.
yeah,
You see them in the store,
yeah,
and the parents following them around.
right.
That's
It's
not good parenting. That's a parent who wants
right.
to be their child's best friend,
Hmm.
not a parent.
And I think you can't have, one is not effective without the other. If you are mean and tough all the time, when you go to love on them and correct them, they're not gonna take that. They don't want to hear it from you. And on the flip side, if you're lovey-dovey all the time and, oh, you're the best, you've done everything you could, you given nothing but positive reinforcement all the time, when you go to critique them or be tough on
They will
them,
never listen
they're
to
never
you.
going to listen. So I
Nope.
really think you have to have both. I think that
Well,
old school mentality of, I'm not your friend, I'm your parent, is kind of just that. I think it's kind of I don't know, maybe it works at a certain time, but I don't think it's effective
I think for the most
anymore.
part we're in agreement, but
Yeah.
maybe there's just a difference in how the verbiage is
Yeah.
used.
Yeah. I think I do. I think we're on the same wavelength, but I have kind of what you said, an example. I remember when I was in, I think it was a freshman in high school. I can't remember, but we had my mouth horrible at math, always have been. And I had a really good math teacher. It was the only time I actually liked going to math class. I was doing good. And halfway through the year, he had a teacher assistant come in, and she was going to teach the class the next half of the year. And I remember her name was Miss Boo Hall, and I hated her. She's in my mind, she sucked. That's how she was terrible. She was mean. She didn't know how to teach me. At least that's how I felt at the time. And this is high school. You can drop classes and move if you want to. Um, at least at mine, you could. So I remember going to dad. I was like, Dad, I was loving math. I hate it now. This is terrible. And he was like, No, you're gonna stay in there, and
You're
you're
gonna
gonna
do it.
figure this out. And I was like, Yeah, but I don't like it. And he was, It doesn't matter if you you're
Tough.
gonna have to figure it out. And looking back, it's funny because after he told me that, I was like, all right, um, I'm I'm here, so I better figure it out. So it's one of those things where I winded up working extremely hard. And what do you know? Dad was right, of course. At the end of the year, I actually ended up liking the teacher a lot, and I actually got a really good grade because I kind of overcompensated
You
for
worked.
what do you know?
Yeah.
I applied myself, and it worked. It worked. And it was just kind of like, oh man, dad got
Your
me
dad
on
wasn't
that
your
one.
friend in that
No,
moment.
he wasn't my friend. He
You
wasn't my
probably
friend in that
hated
moment.
him when he said, "Nope, you're not dropping it."
Oh, I was pissed. I was so mad because I'm like, why aren't you looking out for me? You know what I mean? I thought you
Mhm.
want me to get a good grade. And in in his mind, he was probably like, it's not really all about the grade, but also he was putting that person in my path. Like, he could have easily swapped out another teacher and had a nice teacher that I knew that was, you
Well,
know,
ultimately, I
a
mean, it's a perfect
coach.
example,
Yeah, and it
because
worked.
we all have those challenges. I mean, you are going to as an 18-year-old kid, or 21, depending on when you start working. Some kids start working earlier. I bet you anything, in one of those first jobs you have, you are gonna hate your boss.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
guarantee you, when you are working at a
Yeah,
fast food joint or a chain restaurant or whatever it is, you are going to come across people that you hate, and you can't do anything about it. You
they
still
sign
got
the
to do your
paycheck.
job.
They sign your paycheck. You better like them. Yeah, absolutely. That's not a if, that's a win. You will hate your boss.
Now, I wanted to kind of rewind for a minute.
Hmm.
Just, I don't know how much time we have
No,
left
we're
here, but
fine.
we'll try to get it done quick. You mentioned, what was it you were talking? You were talking about, being the good guy versus being the bad guy. And if you're
Hmm.
always the good guy, they'll
Right.
never respect you. And if you're always the bad guy,
They're
then
not
they'll
going to take.
never
They're not
take
going to
the
listen.
loving side. They're never going to see the love if you're always the hard ass.
Right.
One thing that Sarah and I typically try to do, and it's a struggle even for us, because emotions and tempers and all of that. It's tough, and it's something we're working on ourselves. We try to establish rules, and then we let the rules dictate the consequences.
I
So I
like
never
that.
give my kid a consequence out of anger or frustration.
That's
Whether
good.
you believe in spankings, if you don't, if you, want to put them in a corner for 5 minutes, whatever the consequence is, the consequence should never come out of your emotion. It should come out of
It's
the rule.
it's predetermined. You do
It's
this,
predetermined.
this happens.
It equals this. And if you
I
are
like that.
feeling hot or angered,
Hmm.
you need to take a minute before you give the consequence.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do spankings in our household. Um, we do not do spankings out of anger.
Yeah, right.
If I am hot-headed, then Sarah will
No.
do it. If
Hmm.
she's hot-headed, if we're both hot-headed, then it waits,
Hmm.
or we'll skip it, or we'll come up with a different consequence.
Right.
We're never going to do that out of anger.
Right.
The other thing we always do is we follow up that consequence with basically reconciliation.
Yeah.
So it's always, I love you.
Right.
Let's give a hug.
Hmm.
We're gonna hug. We're
Yep.
gonna tell each other we love each other, and that we forgive each other, and that we're sorry for our actions. And so there's, like you were saying, there's both of it.
Hmm.
Even when we're the bad guy, we try to show love in that moment, and we never do it out of emotion. We never do
Yes.
the consequence side out of
Correct.
emotion.
Correct. Yeah. And I say one last point on that because that kind of that jogged my memory on, and I definitely am not going to say who, but I remember I had a friend growing up that was the household idea, but it was this parent will be good guy, this parent will be
Ooh,
bad guy.
it's a way to grow up and hate a parent.
And luckily it didn't turn out as bad as it could have been. The kids got older and everything was fine. But I remember seeing that, like, in middle school, in my dumb little middle school brain, and I'm like, this is not healthy.
I was
this
waiting
is
for
not this is not how this is supposed to go. I don't think so. I think it's important that both parents both parents have to be both.
100%.
Have to
I
be
was waiting
both.
for you to say it was a household rule, and if you broke the rule, then you
Right.
got a spanking.
That's right. See, visit our previous podcast on PDA about the spankings. But yeah, I think there's a good middle ground there. Definitely, I think our verbiage is slightly different, but I think you and I are on pretty much the same wavelength. And if you're listening and you're wondering, wait, I thought Ryan was going to have his annual dissertation. His internet dropped out, and Ryan left us a little early.
He got old.
So yeah,
His dial-up stopped working.
AOL, someone picked up the phone and cut off the line. So I'm sure Ryan will be back next week, of course. Well, this has been fun, of course. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of the Common Dad Podcast. Do not forget to follow us on Instagram. Do not forget to follow us on YouTube. You can go and watch us. And of course, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, subscribe, like, do all those wonderful things. And I didn't even check if we have a 5-star review. We might not. I'll make sure I check next week. And if you leave a 5-star review, we will read it. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of the Common Dad Podcast. Let us know if you liked the video by giving us a thumbs up. Even if you didn't, give it a thumbs up anyway. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell to get notifications every time we post a new video. Also, do not forget to follow us on Instagram at @the_common_dad and on Facebook at The Common Dad, so you can let us know your thoughts on today's episode.